Hey there, Bill. Recently I watched the IPCRESS file.
Welcome to Hittin the Brakes with Bill!
From the opening shot, it didn't feel like a big budget movie. More of an indie kind of film, or a 1960s made for TV. I think what enforced that in my mind were the camera angles. Like from the opening shot, like being inside of a car and or behind things, which in a lot of cases that tends to be kind of guerrilla filmmaking where you hide the camera someplace so the passersby, aren't noticing the camera and you can get your shots. You don't have a whole bunch of people in the background watching you film. But more and more as I was noticing these interesting camera angles and perspectives, it gave me that feeling that I wasn't just sitting there in my big moose-sized chair at home, but I was like invisibly there, sort of out of body, but there, watching what was happening. Kind of that fly on the wall perspective. But then at the same time, it gives you that feeling, where you're watching a movie and you're like, okay, I'm watching through the eyes of the killer or somebody watching them. Later on, after the movie, I was watching the Michael Caine interview afterwards, and he mentioned the fact that the director wanted to give you that sort of feeling where you didn't know if you were watching something or you were watching somebody else watching something. Anyway, as far as the movie goes, I loved it. I love the idea of a spy movie that feels less glamorous and more real life, even down to the tedious paperwork that the agents had to fill out. And Michael Caine's character, I don't know if it was Michael Caine's ability to make anything he does interesting or the character itself. Anyway, I was very into what he was doing. The movie also has some notable co-stars like Gordon Jackson and the great Nigel Green, who, if I remember right, yes, he was also in another very more realistic spy movie, The Kremlin Letter from like 1970, which I also really liked. I think it was just because it was so different from all the other spy movies that I was used to. And then I read the book. Well, actually, I didn't read the book. I don't have time to read anything these days except for the audiobooks that I'm producing. Savage Realma Monthly. Other than that, I'm just working. And while I'm working, I'm listening to audiobooks. That way I can just devour the stories. And so I listened to somebody doing the IPCRESS file. And I'll tell you what, this guy did a great Michael Caine. It was like not somebody trying to do Michael Caine. It was just somebody doing it, sounding just like Michael Caine did back then. Crazy. Loved it. But man, talk about so much more in the book. I know how books usually cover a lot more stuff, but whoa. If you ever watch the movie, listen to the audiobook or read the book, and boy, you get so much more good stuff. I wonder what Bill is going to say about the IPCRESS file. I don't know if he's...
Moose, I'm going to assume that because we generally don't talk about the IPCRESS file, it's kind of an underseen corridor in Michael Caine's long career, and it's odd because it's a spy series of books, the Harry Palmer books. When they adapted them in the 60s and 70s, I think they were supposed to sort of be a runner-up to, Ian Fleming's James Bond books. But Harry Palmer's a much different, secret agent than James Bond is. It's much more gritty. It's down to earth. The whole thing about the world Harry Palmer, not Harry Potter, different book series. He works in a shabbier auspice. He doesn't have the money. There's no secret gadgets. There's no, watch with a laser in it. Essentially, he's in a cold water flat somewhere in London in a really dispossessed looking city. It's wild. I mean, the first one, I've seen the first one, seen IPCRESS, have not seen the rest of them, but I know the sequel, The $1 Billion Brain, was directed by Ken Russell, of all people. Another weird departure for a guy like that. It's going to get into sort of franchise work. But Sidney J. Furie is the director of IPCRESS file, and he's a journeyman, a guy whose work I've really loved. He did a movie, I think, in 1970, 71 called Sheila Levine, which is Jeannie Berlin, part of the Jeannie Berliniverse. I think that kind of works as a piece with the Heartbreak Kid, just because I think Jeannie Berlin is so damn cute in all these movies, and she's just absolutely adorable. It's kind of like a hippie, ditzy girl at the time. And Sidney J. Ferry directed Superman 4, which, okay. But I want to point out that he also did The Entity, which is a Poltergeist movie, came out the same year as Poltergeist with Barbara Hershey. Really more of a horror movie, as much as Poltergeist was a horror movie. The Entity is like even scarier because it's low to the ground. It looks more realistic. It's a really good movie. Fury had great instincts. I think that he, like he said, there's certain things about where he put the camera, the way he was shooting London. He wasn't a native Brit. The guy came out of Toronto. He's a Canadian journeyman. So maybe he just saw the city, something fresh about fresh eyes. And the fact that the IPCRESS file then at the end winds up being about mind control. Very strange departure, and yet it's kind of like it works out well by the end. You don't expect it to almost like trend into quasi science fiction, like a Quatermass book or something like that. But it's a successful film, and it's always like a distant second place to Bond. But Michael Caine, I think, was the right man for a job. Did a pretty good job as a spy. Still sort of suave, but also that kind of like lunch pail Maurice Micklewhite thing to it. Actually works.